Hey everyone, my name is Gothix and welcome to a Locals Creator Hangout. I am here with Kevin from SpaceXcentric and Cloud Liquor. I read that name and I giggled. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Sun's shining. I'm in good spirits. How are you, Vanessa?
Oh, I am fantastic. Before we get started, would you mind giving people a little bit of an intro? Who are you and what do you do exactly?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So my name's Kevin from Ohio, and I guess you could classify me as a YouTuber, although is there such thing as a Rumbillion or something? Because I'm also on Rumble and on Locals. I'm a media content creator, I guess. I've been doing that for a handful of years. Before that, I was a teacher. Before that, I was a military police officer. I did it all. So this is where I'm at now in my life's journey.
Nice, very cool. And I feel the same way about the YouTuber thing. I'm like, I don't know what to call me, So it's
Yeah.
like, it's just depends. So I was checking out your channel. So you're really into like a lot of the space news. How did you get into that?
Yeah, I've always loved space. You know, when I was a kid growing up, make model rockets with my dad. Uh, Even when I was like in the military doing unrelated things, it always kept my interest. I wasn't a huge fan of the space shuttle growing up. I kind of saw it like taking a Greyhound bus to space. So I focused mostly on like the 50s and 60s and 70s of NASA and landing men on the moon. Really loved that era. But then Elon Musk and SpaceX started to, capture my attention and my motivation, my drive to see humanity go back, to the moon and to Mars and other planets. And that's when I really started to get excited about, living here now instead of reminiscing about the 60s, even though that wasn't America's finest, time with all the riots and stuff going on. But yeah, Elon and what SpaceX was doing really captivated me. And I just had so much energy and passion for it. I wanted to share it with others. So that's why I started my current channel, SpaceXcentric. And then Cloud Liquor is like my alternative, more personal channel where I get to talk about other stuff too.
I love that. So you don't actually lick clouds on that other channel. That's just the name, right?
Well, it's funny, my SpaceXcentric was originally called Cloud Liquor because it was my channel where I was just kind of express myself, mostly rocket stuff. But the reason I called it Cloud Liquor was because I also wanted to do like powered paragliding, like paragliding stuff. At the time, I didn't have the equipment, but it was something I wanted to do. And I used to skydive in the military, so I always called it licking clouds. I'm gonna go lick some clouds today. So eventually, my audience grew for the SpaceX news that I was doing. So I kind of cornered that market and I just focused my channel around that. And then I started the second one and called it Cloud Liquor to kind of keep my other passions going.
Nice. That is really, really cool because I don't really see a lot of channels like yours. And I've always been really curious about space. It's one of those topics where I'm just like, what is out there? It's just my brain just can't fathom what could possibly be up in the sky. So that's pretty cool. So how exactly did you come about getting on locals?
Well, actually, um, it was something I had my eye on. And then Tad reached out from Locals and was like, hey, have you looked into joining our platform? Because I was using Patreon, but I'm not a fan of the woke companies who are, censoring conservatives and stuff. I'm all about free speech. And so I was looking for an alternative. And I looked into doing Locals, didn't really understand it, but then they just happened to reach out to me and was like, hey, have you checked out our platform? I was like, yeah, I have, but I need help with it. So they were more than, willing to help me out. And that's how I came to Locals. And I've been loving it. My community's been loving it ever since.
Yeah, that is awesome. And now that you mention it, I also thought the same thing about Patreon. They ended up reaching out to me not too long ago, and I'm like, no, I kind of like the model of locals, and I like that it's pro free speech, and that's something that I find is very hard to come by, especially in this social climate. So yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the community you've been curating on the platform. Like, what are your community members like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I guess I'll start with to prepare for this interview. I looked into who you were exactly and what you did for your channel, and I feel like you and I kind of share a similar background in this perspective. Um, Originally, my community was, once I started focusing on space at SpaceX, it was a bunch of geeky nerds, right? But since given my background, I guess you could kind of call me a jarhead jock kind of thing. I didn't really fit the stereotypical nerd, even though I taught science. I did have a lot of like-minded people come to my community, but then as I started to see the way that our society was heading around like 20, once the COVID hit and, you know, the Black Lives Matter started happening, I started to see all this stuff happening. I started to get a little bit more vocal about, you know, warning, hey guys, watch out. We don't want our society to go down a certain path because, you know, society influences politics, politics influences space travel, and this window to Mars could shut on us. So let's be careful. But a lot of the nerds in the community didn't really like I was getting a little political. So at the same time, I started cornering even more specific market with like-minded individuals who are more independent, more conservative. And those people started supporting me more and more. They joined over on Locals. So it's really made our community very tight-knit, passionate about SpaceX, what Elon Musk is up to. He's been in the news a lot, advocating for free speech on Twitter. And yeah, it's very, it's nice. What I really like about Locals is being that it can be both for people who just want to, you know, see what we're up to, who want to just do the free thing, or those who want to subscribe, support the channel, and actually participate in the community. What's nice about it is it keeps the spam and the bots away that you would find on these alternatives like Twitter, because they're not going to want to support you, right? So it's just made us a lot closer, a lot more tight knit, where we can freely express ourselves and get to know each other even more.
That's really awesome. And yeah, I totally went through the same transition as far as my community base shifting based on what we were talking about. So it's nice to hear that you found your groove. You have your little tribe of like free thinkers. I love that. And I don't know, I think Elon should make a Locals account. I thought he should do that.
I agree. I told him in the past, I'm like, listen, get off Twitter, start your own thing, come to Locals, get on Rumble, you know, start your own social media. And he's considered it, like he's kind of teased it before. He knows when he's really being serious, but I was really hoping he would do something like that. When I heard that he's going to, when I heard he first invested in Twitter, I didn't think he'd actually do a hostile takeover. I thought maybe he was just going to try to influence it from the inside. So I wish he would have started his own thing, but I'm curious to see where he's going with this whole thing.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting to see how it pans out. Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about what type of content do you primarily upload on Locals, and then maybe you can give me some insight as to what do you reserve for like your paid members?
Sure. So what I've kind of turned my Locals community into is just a way for myself and my members to share what's on our minds. And the way I see it is everything that society is participating in will influence one way or another, the most part, space travel. It's all connected, really. And so I allow everyone to share what they want, so we can all get to know each other a lot better. So I like to post the topics of the day, what's going on in the news, whether it concerns space travel or not. I like to learn what my community thinks about these things, what Elon's been up to. And for my and that I allow everyone to see, even those who aren't paid members. And then for my Locals members specifically, we'll do more fun things. Like I like to do gaming videos, whether it's space gaming or whatever, because I like to game a lot. Do you like to game, Vanessa?
I love game. Now you got to tell me what type of games you play, but keep going before we get into that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, mostly I would say my paid content just for my paid supporters is it's a lot of gaming, maybe behind the scenes stuff, what I'm up to. I haven't really been on vacation in a while, but if I ever get to go back on vacation, I love to just kind of shoot the breeze with them. When the season starts warming up here in a few weeks, I'm going to get back up in the air with my power paragliding stuff. I'll do some videos just for them, you know, shoot the S word in the clouds and just talk about what we want to while we're looking some clouds. So yeah, I have some plans in mind, and for my paid supporters, I'm really looking forward to this summer.
It's really awesome. Okay, so now I need to know, what type of games are you into?
Man, I love it. I love a lot of games, but at the same time, I'm pretty picky. My genres are, you know, space related, but I love survival games. I'm not much of a Candy Crush kind of guy, but I'm a PC gamer. I'll even do Xbox. But yeah, like Kerbal Space Program is a big one. DayZ, survival game, first person shooters, that kind of thing.
Nice.
I guess. What about you?
Yeah, I'm into first person shooters. I'm into horror games. Strategy games I suck at. I kind of need something a little bit more fast paced that I can just, you know, aim at something. And I'm in agreement with you that I don't think Candy Crush is an actual game, but that's my opinion. But yeah. Nice. Very, very cool. So I wanted to know, like, in terms of, I guess, in terms of locals, what are some pros that you have found as opposed to some of the other large platforms that are out there right now? Like, what are some of the benefits that you're just like, oh man, I wish, other platforms could look at locals as like, well, this is something that's pretty good. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, going back to what I said earlier, I think the big one is the fact that they have a paywall if you wish to implement it. So only your paid members can participate while the other ones just kind of sit back and see what's going on. What's really great about that is it gives those who really want to invest in your community, it gives them a louder voice, and it eliminates the bots and the spam and the haters, really, the ones that just want to poop all over everything. So I, so that's like the biggest win for me personally. And the other big one is, locals like-minded, they're pro free speech. Yeah, what else could you ask for, really? I want to support those alternative platforms, that second internet, if you will, because I heavily disagree with those who are pro cancel culture. To me, that's like one of the most un-American stances you can take, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever gotten canceled before?
Oh, yeah. Well, not straight up canceled, but I've been blacklisted. I got blacklisted on YouTube, still am. So Twitter, yeah, I have 11,000 followers on Twitter, but I don't use it much anymore ever since they like they purged a lot of conservatives. But, I've been heavily shadow banned on that platform as well. It is what it is, moving to these
Yeah.
other alternatives.
Yeah, I'm definitely at the same point here where I'm just like it's just expected to happen. So I think the most beneficial thing we can do for people that value free speech is just flocking to places that support that and support our values instead of just being another, cog in this machine that only allows one line of thinking.
Right, exactly. Now, I know you're the interviewee, but if I could, uh, can, can you go into a little bit more depth about how it was with your transition? I think from what I learned, you started on Twitch and then you start on a different kind of content, like subject you were doing, and then you started to get a little bit more vocal and the culture and politics or whatever. How was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but how was that experience for you? Did you get a lot of blowback from your community that was with you from the beginning? Because I might be able to relate a little bit there.
Oh yeah, my content when did a total 180. I started making gaming content and I was doing like sketch comedy. So it was no political talk at all. And I had rules where whenever I was streaming, don't talk about these five topics like religion, politics, culture, because I think that those topics would always lead to confrontation when I was streaming. And in retrospect, I wish I didn't have those rules because I think it sort of conditions people to be to think those topics are taboo, like we're not supposed to give our opinions on these things. So yeah, my audience totally. I want to say maybe 90% of them they stopped supporting me because the more I became more vocal, the more they distance themselves. And I also think that's a product of cancel culture because these days, if you're even associated with someone or you follow someone on social media, you're just as guilty as the person that says something to begin with. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I ended up making my transition to YouTube and I ended up growing my audience tenfold. And, as I said earlier, I don't even call myself a YouTuber because there could be a day that they're like, bye bye, and then I have no place to go.
Right. Yes, exactly. So yeah, like I suspected, I can relate to that a lot because when I started to see the way our culture was going a few years ago, I was like, hey, I got to speak out because this is not going to be good for, space travel in general. Like Elon likes to say, we have a window of opportunity here. It's a short, small window. That window can close on us anytime. So I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. If our society, if the American culture, our society just goes off the cliff, there's no way we're getting to Mars. I mean, we landed on the moon in the late 60s and we haven't been back since, the early 70s. So going to Mars is even harder. Who knows if Elon can't do it because, say society collapses, the dollar goes away and cancel culture comes in and cancels people like Elon Musk, we're never getting to Mars. So I started speaking out, not like straight up in my audience faces, like, how dare you, agree with this kind of stuff. I would just be like, listen, just kind of subtly doing it, let's watch out for this, guys. Let's have our heads on let's have, smart heads on our shoulders. And the worse it got, the more I just couldn't help myself but speak out. And meanwhile, people were like, I'm unsubscribing. Like, hey man, bon voyage, you do what you got to do. It's kind of weak that you got to, tell me about it. Why don't you just go? I mean, I don't waste my time commenting on videos of people I don't agree with, but
Yeah.
what can you expect these days, I guess, when everyone's entitled to hear what they want to hear. But yeah, I mean, I learned that about you. I'm like, man, it's someone I can relate to, because you don't run into a whole lot of people who, are embedded into a culture, society, a community that maybe, for me, rocketry and science is definitely more of a leftist, politically left kind of society, especially with Elon Musk and green energy and stuff like that. So as me, a silent conservative, all of a sudden I start speaking out. I kind of have this unique perspective of cancel culture. Okay, I'm being taken out of this community here, and now I got to kind of build my own one over here. We still agree on a lot of the same things, but I'm being pushed this way, so I need to try to own it as much as possible.
Yeah, that's totally. And also, I think what you mentioned about people commenting to say that they're unsubscribing, that's just, I think that that's a sign of how people just want to be heard. Just they need to tell everyone what they're doing. I can't understand it. So I'm a little bit not well versed in the topic of space and things like that, but you mentioned that because of the culture and how it's going, we wouldn't be able to get to Mars. Could you explain that a little bit? Is it more so because of the dollar and us being able to actually afford to do that?
Yeah. So let's see where to start. It's a pretty complicated subject. It's very expensive to get to Mars, right? NASA, even though they're funded by taxpayers like you and I, haven't even been able to come close. They landed some really cool tech on Mars, like Perseverance and Curiosity rovers. But as far as landing humans on Mars, it's a whole nother thing, because then you got to get them back. So this is something that Elon and SpaceX want to achieve, and they're our best bet by far of doing it in our lifetimes. But even then, that window can shut anytime, because literally the window to get to Mars is every 26 months or so. It's called the Hohmann transfer window. But also with just how delicate societies can be, and as you were mentioning, the economy and the dollar. Yeah. So we had the lockdowns, right, with COVID. And that's when I really started to get vocal. Like, this is going to interrupt our supply chain, and our whole country, the whole world runs on a supply chain. And it's like its own ecosystem. It's very delicate. If you disrupt that supply chain a little bit, it's going to take a long time to fix it. And that's why we're seeing these supply shortages right now. Elon just tweeted the other day that they're having lithium problems, even though there's a lot of lithium to dig up out of the ground. He can't find the people to do the digging, because people aren't working as often anymore. But you also have the supply chain issues. Now you have inflation. A few months back, Gwen Shotwell, SpaceX president's CEO, was saying, it's transporting fuels getting hard to do. We have these trucker shortages. So, I mean, this is all the kind of stuff I was trying to warn about. Like, let's not lock down mom and pop businesses while these big corporations get to stay open. That's not fair. And we're starting to see the repercussions of that. And I'm afraid it's only going to get worse. And the supply chain issue, inflation, all this affects our ability to go to Mars and beyond. And who knows, if something bad happens in the next few years, that window might shut permanently, and we might not get another chance in our lifetime. I don't know.
Oh, wow. I did not know any of that. Okay, I feel a little bit more informed. Thank you. I was very curious. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's not awesome, the situation of what's going on. That's actually pretty terrible. But yeah, I mean, as you said, things I think will get worse before it gets better, and I think censorship is going to get worse before it gets better. So I'm glad that you're on local, so that you have a place to vocalize your opinion and actually speak your mind. Because I know I'm shadow banned on a lot of platforms as well, so I don't even think people hear what I have to say anymore. And I also don't want to keep supporting platforms that don't value what I value either. So
right, yeah. Another thing about that was when they started doing the mandates with the mask, I was the only voice in the space community, if you will, to speak out against it. And Elon started speaking out against vaccines. So it kind of felt nice to have someone in my corner, a big name in my corner in the community on that. But I got a lot of flack for speaking out against mandates. And my reason for saying it was, listen, guys, like, these mandates will have a negative effect on what we're trying to achieve here. And specifically in this instance with the vaccine mandates, President Biden said, he tried to pass the federal mandates for federal employees and even contractors. I'm like, SpaceX is a contractor. If you try to mandate vaccines on SpaceX employees, they're going to lose some talent. Now, luckily, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional and that never went through. But that's just the kind of direct effect that politics that a lot of people don't like to hear about, but they're important nonetheless. Why we need to speak out against it, against bad policies. So just to add to what I was saying earlier.
One other question for you, because you mentioned that you, in one of your, you said this in passing, that you are like a silent conservative. In your industry, or I guess in general, have you ever felt that you have needed to silence yourself, just self-censor in any way, or is this sort of like a new thing that you've had to do?
Yeah, kind of like you before. I never felt the need to, like 2018. I never felt the need to come out of the closet as a conservative, if you will. And yeah, I see myself as a conservative. I have a lot of libertarian values, though. I'm first and foremost a pro individual liberty kind of guy and pro Constitution. But yeah, I've always felt the need, once I started speaking out, to censor myself. I don't want to, just come out and say I think anyone who doesn't think things through before they say it, or doesn't sleep on it, kind of like Elon does when he tweets, he'll do these late night tweets, like you just give it a night before I make those mistakes. So I think it's good for everyone to kind of self-censor a little bit, unless it's really something you're passionate about that you truly believe down in your heart. But sometimes we all say things we don't mean. So, I make those mistakes. Sometimes I wish I could take things back that I've said. But I think overall, I've done a pretty good job on, controlling my emotions, trying not to be too in the face of my audience with my political beliefs, but just enough to inform so they can make their own decisions. And if they don't like it, then they are free to leave. And I have no problem with that. That's America, baby. Even if you don't live here.
There you go. It's America. All right. That is dope. So, I think those are all the questions that I wanted to ask you. I know they wanted us to talk a little bit longer, but I don't know, like I could keep talking to you for like 3 hours, because I feel like you and I could vibe on a lot of stuff. But I guess one final question I could ask you is, if you were to, I guess, maybe pitch locals to other creators out there that may be using some of these other platforms that could potentially get pulled from out of them, what would you tell them if you just had to summarize it in like one sentence?
Man, I would tell them you can continue to support, the mainstream platforms, if you will, the platforms that are taking a portion of your income, a portion of your money that your creators are contributing, or your viewers are contributing to you, and they can use that money to push their woke agenda. Or you can, give the second internet a try, like go to alternative sites like Locals, bring that same community with you. My community left Patreon, I'm sure like yours did, and they came over to Locals. And it actually, yeah, I mean, there's always things you can improve, especially when you have these newer websites that are still growing. Everyone can always improve what they're building. But what I really love about Locals is just, you can bring everyone into it, even those who maybe are going through financial hardship with the inflation crisis going on right now. You can still bring them in. They can still see what's going on. You don't get that with, Patreon, unless you do all free stuff for the most part. And then you can also build a space for those who want to contribute to your channel, who want to support what you do, and they can participate. I really love that feature about it. It really builds your community, and it builds it in a way that you guys grow together. You get to understand each other better. And again, you don't have to worry about the haters and the bots and all that junk that usually comes with alternative websites. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Love Locals.
You got to pay to be a hater.
Yeah, exactly. Haters are welcome. If you don't agree with me on everything, that's totally fine. I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
You got to pay.
Yeah, you just got to pay, man. You're going to insult me. You have to give me money first.
Exactly.
Awesome. Hey, Kevin, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Rumble. Rumble's done me a solid. They always feature my videos. Just type in SpaceXcentric, or pronounce SpaceXcentric. You can also find my Cloud Liquor channel on there as well. That's one word, Cloud Liquor. It's as weird as it sounds. I do have a Twitter account. I don't use it because I don't agree with them, but it's there. Maybe if Elon can get the platform working, you can maybe I'll participate more on there. But I'm on Twitter under SpaceXcentric. I will be joining Truth Social as soon as President Trump gets that up and running for Android users.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, and then of course locals. This is where I participate the most with my community on locals.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this creator hangout. I would love to talk to you more some other time. Maybe we'll get that chance. But yeah, if you guys want to check out Kevin, be sure to follow him on all of those social sites, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.